The hearing before Administrative Driver's License Revocation Office through Hearings Officer Shirley Yamaki is now open. Today's date is April 18th, 2024, and the time is 1:46 p.m. This hearing is proceeding by way of Zoom video conference pursuant to Section 291E38 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. This is case number 24-00538 in the matter of Humberto M. Arguello. Council appearances, please.
Good afternoon. Matthew Silva, appearing on behalf of Humberto Arguello, with the president.
Thank you, Council. Today is the second hearing in this matter. Initial hearing was on March 25th, 2024. That was the respondent's continuance as Officer Jaramillo was not served. At that hearing, respondent testified, and Council was allowed to subpoena Sergeant Carter. At that time, the entire case file was admitted into evidence as Exhibit A. However, for the record, again, Counsel, you have had the opportunity to review the case file, correct?
That's correct.
And my understanding is that you wish to question Officer Jaramillo, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
So, Officer Jaramillo, if I could ask you to raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear from that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record along with your badge number.
Sir Debney Jaramillo, badge number is 295.
Thank you, Counsel. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon.
This is a preliminary matter. Is it Jaramillo? Is it Jaramillo? How do you pronounce your last name?
Jaramillo.
And Officer Jaramillo, do you recall making an arrest of the other person who's present on Zoom with us, Humberto Michael Arguello?
Yes.
And do you remember when it was that you arrested him?
I don't have the date in front of me. I'm sorry.
Was that sometime this year in 2024?
Yes.
And when let me go back. How did you first observe him on the day that you arrested him?
After the initial call, I picked up on DKI, and I observed him driving down or east on DKI, tailing a vehicle in front of him.
For my benefit, when you say DKI, are you talking about Daniel Cave and William Highway, also known as Saddle Road?
Officer Jaramillo, I saw you nod your head, but if you could, your response, if you did say anything, did not come through. So if you could respond to that question again.
Yes.
And what did you do after you observed Mr. Arguello driving down or east on DKI?
I conducted a U-turn, and I pulled him over.
Okay. And prior to, well, let me take that back. When you say you pulled him over, you turned on your blue flashing lights and your siren? Prior to initiating that stop with your blue flashing lights and your siren, what kind of observations did you make of the vehicle?
Aside from tailing the car in front of it, initially when I turned on my blue lights and siren, he didn't immediately pull over. Most vehicles will pull over, especially if they already see a police vehicle in the area. It took him a little while, and when he did, it was very strange because he pulled off onto the shoulder, then pulled back on, then pulled back off. I thought he was gonna go all the way off into the lava. It was pretty bad. And then when he did stop, it was very close to the shoulder line, between the shoulder and the actual roadway, which is another strange observation. Most people will pull off further onto the shoulder where it's safe for the officer, but we were almost gonna straddle the line. Luckily, he stopped, but it was very abrupt.
So, my question for you was prior to effectuating your stop, what you had observed.
Oh yes, that's what I observed. Him tailing the vehicle. So traveling too close to the vehicle in front of him, especially for the speeds that most vehicles are traveling in that area, for the speed limit, the rain, the weather. So not traveling in like a prudent manner.
You didn't issue a citation for following too closely to him, though, did you?
I'm sorry, say again?
You didn't issue him a citation for following a vehicle too closely, though, did you?
I don't recall giving him a citation, no.
You didn't indicate that he was following a vehicle too closely in your report, is that right?
I'm sorry. Did you say I did not?
Yeah.
It should. My report.
Upon making contact with Mr. Aguelo, you asked him for his driver's license, is that right?
Yes.
And you asked him for his registration?
Yes.
And you asked him for proof of insurance?
Yes.
And Mr. Aguelo was able to provide you with those documents or items, is that right?
Yes.
After he provided you with those items, you placed him under arrest for reckless driving, is that right?
Yes.
And in placing him under arrest, you placed him in handcuffs, is that right?
Yes.
And you informed him at the time that you were placing him under arrest for reckless driving, right? I'm sorry, I just didn't catch the answer on my end verbally.
Yes.
And at that point, or about that point, you called for dispatcher for the humane descent of blue and white, or a marked police vehicle to your location. Is that right?
Yes.
And at some point, the blue and white arrived to your location. Is that right?
Yes.
And he was placed in that vehicle and transported by that officer to the Hilo main station.
Yes.
And you drove separately in your own vehicle back to the Hilo main station. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you next see Mr. Arguello?
When I get back to the station in the processing room.
Could you describe the processing room for me? Is it like all concrete? Does it have any kind of interior or exterior windows?
No exterior windows. The processing room only has windows to show the officers in cell block processing them. It is a cement concrete style room.
Did you, at that point, go and speak with Mr. Arguello? Did you talk to anybody else?
I spoke to Mr. Arguello, yes.
And what did you speak with him about?
About conducting the SFSTs with him, the standardized field sobriety tests.
And to be extra clear, at this point he'd already been arrested and taken to the station and was in custody, right?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that you believe he had probable cause to have placed Mr. Arguello under arrest for the reckless driving that you said you placed him under arrest for. Is that right?
I'm sorry, officer. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you go through the A. Dillaro packet with him, with Mr. Arguello?
Yes.
And where did you do that?
In cell block.
You said in cell block. Is that different from processing?
It's the processing room is in cell block.
I guess let me clarify some more. When you say that you reviewed it with him in cell block, was he in the processing room mentioned before, or was he in a different part of cell block?
He was in the processing room.
And about how much time had passed from when he was brought to the station to when you reviewed the packet with him?
That was immediately.
And during the time that you were at cell block, in regards to this case I've been asking about, did you confer with any other officers as to charging decisions?
Charging decisions?
Yeah, as to what Mr. Arguello was being kept in custody for?
No.
And why did you review a yellow packet with Mr. Arguello after he'd been arrested for reckless driving?
So I mentioned to him that he had a strong odor coming from his body. Believed that he was intoxicated. And also, I observed his bottle cap in the car, and then later finding the bottle of vodka and that can of Truly in his passenger seat.
And you made those observations out in the field at the station? Where did you make those observations?
In the field. So the vehicle was up on DKI or Dan McKay, Illinois, parked on the side of the road when I made these observations.
And how long did it take for the blue and white car to show up to your location?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
You think you're able to make an estimate for us?
15 minutes. We weren't far from Kilo.
And in that 15-minute period, you didn't ask Mr. Arguello to participate in Senator's field sobriety test?
No.
And prior to being taken to the station, and did Mr. Arguello refuse to participate in Senator's field sobriety test to that point?
Prior to the station, no, I didn't ask him to participate in it.
Officer Arneo, you received training at the police academy concerning the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Senator's field sobriety test. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you know which version or which year of the SFST training manual you were trained under?
No.
When did you receive your training to conduct and grade Senator's field sobriety tests?
2017.
And as a part of your education and training at the police academy for conducting Senator's field sobriety tests, you were taught that Senator's field sobriety tests are a tool that an officer can use to help you determine if a driver is safe to continue driving a vehicle or if they may be impaired by an intoxicant. Is that right?
Yes.
I know it's facing basic, but it's fair to say that at the time that you asked Mr. Arguello to participate in the field sobriety test at the station, you did not have the means to just leave or to drive away at that point. Is that right?
Yes.
So I know I asked you about conferring with other officers concerning like a charging decision. Did you confer with other officers as a part of this investigation while you're at the Hilo main station at all?
No.
And your report indicated that it was Sergeant Wendell Carter who was the on-duty rank that was available to you at the time. Is that right?
I'm not sure who was working that day.
you saw, or let me do that. Let me strike that. After you testified that you had gone through the safety of the rope packet with Mr. Arguello. After that, though, did you seek a warrant for a blood draw?
Yes, with the on-duty rank.
And you say with the on-duty rank, did you confer with that individual as to obtaining the warrant for the blood draw?
Not to confer, just to notify them of Mr. Arguello's refusal.
At some point, Mr. Arguello was transported then to, is it well, I think they just renamed it, but at the time, the Hilo Hospital,
Yes,
and that was for the blood draw.
yes.
And the blood draw, are you familiar with what time it was actually conducted?
No.
Were you present at the hospital during the blood draw?
Yes.
And prior to going to the hospital, do you know if any other officers, sergeant rank, anybody else, from HPD, if anybody else spoke with Mr. Arguello prior to him being transported to the hospital?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Did you yourself attempt to have him ID processed?
Myself and the cell block officer, yes.
I've been noticing, I'm going to hold right there. I've been noticing a couple of times, Mr. Silva, a couple of emojis. I've seen, this was just the second, thumbs up in a bubble. I don't know if that's your computer or what's happening, but if that could not happen, that would be really great.
I don't think it's my computer. Yeah, I just saw that too. I don't think that's my computer, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So you said it was you and the cell block officer. Do you know who the cell block officer was?
No.
Thank you, officer. Those are my questions for the officer.
Officer Armillo, I have a few questions for you. On the day that you arrested Mr. Arguello, do you remember the weather conditions and what they were like?
Yes. Wet, and it was actively raining.
Okay. And how long after you placed Mr. Arguello under arrest? I believe your testimony was another officer transporting Mr. Arguello back to Hilo Police Station. Is that right?
Yes.
Why was another officer called for the transport instead of you just transporting him?
I had a vehicle. I didn't have a backup. It was just me on the traffic stop.
Okay. And while you were in the field, why didn't you ask or I'm sorry, strike that. While you were in the field after your stop, did you ask Mr. Arguello to do the SFSTs?
No, not in the field.
Why not?
One reason was for safety. That road has a high speeders.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. For safety, that road has a high what?
Speeders, lots of speeders. Road. It's a dangerous road, actually. We just had a fatal a week prior. So
Okay.
not the safe hold any type of SFSTs, whether I had a partner or not.
And your report indicates that Mr. Arguello was argumentative while you were in the field. What does that mean?
Passively aggressively being that cooperative, but not actually being cooperative.
Okay.
He was cooperative in a sense where he allowed me to place the handcuffs on him. He didn't physically, but anything that I answered for him was not enough of an answer for him, and he continuously asked questions in different manner or in a different way.
What kind of questions?
About why he was being arrested, why he had to wear handcuffs. I can recall him feeling ashamed, and I definitely don't want that intention coming off as I'm trying to do this to make you feel shame. I didn't arrest him on the side of the road to do that.
Okay. And maybe I missed your answer earlier to counsel's question. So I know that you placed Mr. Arguello under arrest for reckless driving. Was there anything else that you placed him under arrest for other than reckless driving?
Suspicion of DUI, but initially for the reckless driving.
Okay. What about open container? You had mentioned seeing or observing open containers in his vehicle.
Yes, after that. Once I was able to weigh his registration card into the vehicle, I grabbed his cell phone that was in the car. I promised him I would do that. Grabbed his cell phone, and then on the passenger seat it was wet, and there was an open bottle of vodka and an empty can of Truly. I don't recall the flavor.
Okay. And you said that you placed him while you were in the field you placed him under arrest for suspicion of OVUII. At what point did you place him under arrest for OVUII?
When we got back. So at that time, he was under arrest for both. But when we got back, I explained to him that he was under arrest for the 3 charges.
Okay. And without the SFSTs, why did you place Mr. Arguello under arrest for OVUII?
Upon initial contact is what I feel like weighed the most. Besides the way that he pulled over, which I was honestly afraid that he was going to go into the lava rocks. It was very abrupt, and I don't come across cars like ever pull off the roadway into the shoulder and then back into the roadway and then off again.
Was there anything else besides his driving?
Oh yes, so upon contact, as soon as I got up to the window, the manner that he answered me, his speech was slurred, heavily slurred. He seemed intoxicated. The pattern in which he spoke to me was not normal.
Did you observe anything else as far as any type of other things that would indicate that Mr. Arguello was intoxicated, besides the heavily slurred speech and the pattern in which he spoke?
Yes, his eyes, red, watery, glassy. as well as the exit from the vehicle. He wanted to retrieve his wallet, which fell. So I allowed him to come outside to go to the back door so he could get his wallet that fell. And he was leaning on the doors, so assisting himself in maneuvering. That already was very unsafe, as we were literally on the line that separates the shoulder from the roadway.
Okay. Did you observe any type of odor from Mr. Arguello?
Yes, from his body.
And what kind of odor did you observe?
Alcoholic beverage.
And can you give me, on a scale of slight odor, moderate odor, strong odor? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Strong odor.
Okay. Now, Mr. Silva referred to the AZLRO packet. So, what is your understanding of what is in the AZLRO packet? Is that the implied consent forms?
Like consent form, yes.
Okay, so I noticed in the use of intoxicants while driving, operating a vehicle, implied consent for testing, that's the one-page form. Under respondent's signature, it's written refused. What was Mr. Arguello's attitude like while you were reading him that one-page form?
Continued to talk about his lawyer. He went, lawyer present wouldn't listen, but I just continued on. I tried to be as clear as possible, and I can understand that he wanted his lawyer.
Okay.
He
Now,
wasn't on my side.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part? You kind of cut out.
Sure. He wasn't listening to me.
Okay. And you went on to read him the 4-page form of operating a vehicle under the influence of an intoxicant, refusal to take tests. Is that right? You cut out again. But I did see you nod your head.
Yes.
Okay. And again, Ms. Arguello refused to sign that form also.
Yes. Continuing on about not willing to participate and wanting his lawyer.
And while you were at the station, was the respondent offered the SFSTs?
Yes.
And I believe your earlier testimony was he refused. Is that right?
Yes.
Did he give any reason why he was refusing?
Because he didn't understand word and wanted to speak to his lawyer prior to making a different decision.
Now, from when Mr. Arguello was placed in the other police vehicle and transported, how long did you said that you arrived after? How long did it take you to get to Hilo Police Station?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I have no further questions, Officer Armillo. Mr. Silva, based on my questions, do you have any further questions for the officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Officer, you testified or stated, I believe, that You said even if you had another officer present, you still would not have attempted to conduct standardized field sobriety tests on DKI?
Yes.
And you've conducted a standardized field sobriety test in individuals in your professional capacity before, is that right?
Yes.
And how many of those times have you placed somebody under arrest without conducting standardized field sobriety tests for DUI?
I don't recall how much.
Would it be fair to say that in your experience you would make that decision upon the completion, or if you had to terminate them prematurely, the termination of the standardized field sobriety test?
Officer Armillo, are you there?
I'm sorry, say again? Hello?
It looks like her screen froze, Mr. Silva, for a second. If you could repeat that question.
Please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, would it be fair to say that typically you would make a decision about arresting somebody for OVUII or for DUI after the completion, or if you had to terminate them prematurely, the termination of the standardized field sobriety test?
Yes. And based off of observations.
Is your testimony to that you believe that you could make that arrest decision without ever implementing standardized field sobriety tests for OVUII?
No, case by case. This is a different situation. This is not every single traffic stop and every single OVUII arrest.
But if I heard correctly, you said you also, at the station, informed me that you arrested him for the open container too. Is that right? Is your testimony that you observed that when going back into his car to retrieve something for him, that was after you had placed him under arrest and put him in handcuffs? Is that right? And at the time that you placed Mr. Arguello in handcuffs, you told him only that you were placing him. Let me show you that. At the time you placed him in handcuffs, you told him that you were placing him under arrest for reckless driving, right?
Yes.
And at that time, you did not tell him that you were placing him under arrest for suspicion of OVUII. Is that correct?
Yes. So he was informed of his initial arrest.
And at that point, he had the handcuffs on him. Is that right?
Yes.
And he was not free to leave at that point, right?
Not free to leave.
And since there were some questions asked by the hearing officer about uniform consent, he told you that he wanted a lawyer, that he wanted a specific lawyer, that he wanted a lawyer. Was that right?
He wanted his lawyer.
And at the time that you placed him under arrest for the reckless driving, you did not advise him of his Miranda rights, correct?
Did not. No.
Thank you very much, officer. No further questions now.
Thank you.
Officer, I'm still a little confused because I actually thought at the in the field you had actually placed him under arrest for reckless suspicion of OVUII open container. But your response to Mr. Silva's follow-up question indicates when you handcuffed him, you only placed Mr. Aguelo under arrest for reckless.
I apologize. I informed him of just reckless while we were in the field.
And at what point was he informed that he was also being arrested for OVUII and open container?
That's when we were back at the station, when I mentioned to him that I smelled the odor coming from him and asked him if he wanted to participate in SFSTs.
Okay. But your observation as far as his slurring, the leaning against the car to pick up his wallet, that was all made in the field. Is that right?
Yes.
So at that time, why not place him under arrest for suspicion of OVUII, in addition to the reckless?
Well, I utilized my observations after I put his registration and his insurance. Sorry, his registration and his insurance back into the glove, and the totality of everything. So not just what I smelled, which is one key thing, and not just what I observed in his eyes, which is another key thing that we look for. His exit, that spilled substance on his passenger seat, the totality of it, that's when it was very apparent
Okay.
that he was under arrest for OVUI.
But he was informed of that at the station.
That he was arrested for this, yes.
Okay. And after you arrested the respondent for the reckless driving, why didn't you Mirandize him at that point?
It's not common for us to advise them of their rights, especially if they are intoxicated or we believe them to be intoxicated.
Okay. And have you ever arrested anybody? Actually, you know what? Strike that. How long have you been a police officer, Officer Aramillo?
7 years.
Okay. And in that time, aside from this case, have you ever arrested anybody for OVUII without them doing an SFST?
Yes. For refusals, yes.
Okay, thank you. Based on that, Mr. Silva, any follow-up questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Aramillo, for your appearance and testimony today. You're free to go.
Thank you. Have a good day, you folks.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Silva, I show that Sergeant Carter has not been served.
That is correct, ma'am.
Are you asking for a continuance to secure his testimony?
Let me throw that question to my client and see if he wants to do that or not.
Okay, you know what? Then let me step out of the room and I'll give you about 5 minutes. Hey Ryan, counsel is conferring with his client. We're back on record. We took a short break for counsel to confer with his client. The time is 2:32 p.m. Mr. Silva, how would you like to proceed?
I think that we do not need to continue for the sergeant. My understanding from additional investigation we've done on our end is that that was not the individual that Mr. Aguelo testified about with the paperwork. And then from Officer Aramillo's testimony today, that was like the cell block officer whose information we have not been able to obtain to try to have a subpoena issued for.
Okay. So I'm going to note for the record that on the arrest information, it does state that she informed her rank on duty sergeant, and that was Wendell Carter. So are you saying that the individual that Mr. Arguello testified to at the last hearing was not that on duty sergeant?
That's what we think to be the case. How can I phrase this? My understanding is that Mr. Arguello was able to look up what Sergeant Wendell Carter looks like online, and that was not the individual that he recalled.
I see.
And then with that testimony about the cell block and that paperwork, we from the officer today, we think that it's a different person.
I see. Okay. So, given that, do you have any motions at this time that you'd like to make?
I guess at this time I'd just ask you to consider the record at this point to conclude the hearing and to rescind the revocation decision primarily due to that I don't know how to characterize it as sort of I would say unusual or kind of conflicting testimony about the probable cause to arrest for OVUI specifically part that we heard from the officer that well, I apologize. Are you willing to entertain my argument on that at this time?
Yeah.
So if I may, one of those things was that my understanding is that in the report that's part of the record for this case, an officer conflicts with her testimony today, right? That she didn't confer with anybody, she didn't talk to anybody else, for any purposes. That in there she did mention, in the written report that she did mention doing something more of that nature that she said she didn't do today. That kind of in connection to the this is like your questions, ma'am, as well as mine about making arrests prior. It was basically when people refused the field sobriety test. In this case, frankly, it just doesn't add up to me. Either it's that she had PC, but there wasn't a refusal at that point. But then how do you have PC? Or there was not, but then it was a refusal later. But that's different from her saying, she's arrested for refusing. So I think this is a different one. And this is one where I think even at the preponderance standard, it's not enough. An issue is to PC for reckless driving, maybe not. But the issue for us, right, is going to be if there's PC for the OVUII. And her testimony as well was that, they utilize that to help determine if a person is safe to continue driving it. By the time that she went and asked that, he wasn't going anywhere, he wasn't driving. Right? This isn't a refusal where she's got to make that decision. And so where it would make sense, right? If you're in the field and you refuse, and you couldn't arrest, then everybody could just refuse, right? And nobody would ever get arrested for DUIs again. So obviously, it probably makes sense that the logical conclusion is that is a basis to have PC. But if you've arrested somebody already, I don't see where it's supported necessarily in the process or in, at least for our purposes, the relevant statutes to try to conduct field sobriety tests at the station, especially where at least the testimony was that the initial, placing in handcuffs or arrest was for the different charge. At that point, it's to further their investigation. It's not the same as refusing her having to take that decision in the field. So I ask you to rescind the revocation for Mr. Arguello for that reason.
Thank you, counsel, for your arguments this morning. And thank you, Ms. Arguello, for your appearance in this matter. I'll take this matter under advisement. The record shall now be closed. The time is 2:38 p.m. A written decision will follow in a timely manner.